Okay, guys, welcome to my first episode of Drunk Astrology featuring Charlie. That's me. And today I just wanted to talk to you about the complexity of your chart and how it manifests. So, like, most of y'all at this point have, like, either consented or not consented to me giving you a reading on your chart, and I've given it to you anyways. And, like, thank you for all tolerating me. And first of all, thank you, because clearly I have an obsession, and when I'm able to like apply it and like maybe help somebody with it, then I feel super great. So I appreciate you guys. And anyway, I just wanted to talk about like how complex like even just like one part of your chart is, because a lot of the time it's like I look at one part of your chart and I'm like, oh, you have this planet in this house in this sign, and like it can have this effect. And then you'll like most of y'all will be like, oh yeah, totally, because this, like, or sometimes it's like, maybe, kind of, right? Like most of the time it's the first one, because like I'm getting better at this and I think I have a skill, maybe, or something is happening that's on point somewhere. But I think y'all have given me like really nice feedback, and I don't know how much of that is like just that I have really nice friends or if I'm actually excellent person at this. But anyway, I will say one thing about your chart, like one placement in your chart, and it might resonate, and that's great. But like, I just want to point out like how that's only one manifestation of like so many manifestations of that one part of your chart, because it's just going to come up like over and over and over and over again, you guys. And like one thing that I've been learning about in the last few weeks is this technique called profection. And basically what it has to do with is like every year of your life, a different house becomes active in your chart. So it's not really like everything in your chart is being fulfilled at once. It's kind of like you'll have a focus on one area of your life and whatever planets are in that house and whatever planets are the ruler of that house, which, to clarify, every sign has a ruling planet. That planet is not necessarily in that sign when you're born. So like, say for example, like Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius and you're having a Sagittarius perfected year. Jupiter might be like actually in Capricorn, for example, at that time. So then whatever Jupiter's doing in Capricorn is going to become like sort of a theme that comes up that year, as well as like whatever house Sagittarius is, the themes associated with that house. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if it doesn't make sense, if you're confused, or if you want me to do another video about this, maybe when I'm sober. I'm not totally drunk, but I'm working on it. I have some bourbon. I watched a documentary recently about bourbon and it was great. And like now I'm like completely sold on bourbon. It's like, aged in New Oak, and it has to be over 50% corn, and it has to be American. All whiskey has to be American, by the way, you guys. So like support your fellow Americans. You know what I'm saying? Cheers. So my example of how complex this can be is from my own chart, and I'm going to share some personal information. I have Mars in Taurus in my third house in my own chart. Okay, so the third house, it has to do with siblings, it has to do with religious rituals, it has to do with short distance travel. And then on top of that, Mars is the ruler of my second house, which means that it's also talking about what I do for money. Okay, because the second house is how we make money. Mars is the ruler of my second house because it's Aries. Mars is in Taurus, which is my third house. So Mars in Taurus also talks about my work life and how I make money. Okay, so one manifestation of this is that I am a surgical tech. Mars signifies separation or cutting, right? And then Taurus represents the body. So as a surgical tech, like my profession, how I make money is that I cut into people's bodies. Okay, so like that's one manifestation of this. Another thing that Taurus is associated with is the food industry. Okay, so I've also worked in the food industry multiple times in my life, and I do have to tell you that Mars is depressed in Taurus. What I mean by that is every planet has certain signs that they like to be in and certain signs that they don't do well in, and Taurus does not do well, or Mars does not do well in Taurus. Okay, and then also there's this thing in the chart that is talking about which planets are causing trouble in your chart. And for me, Mars is one that's causing trouble in my chart. So let me tell you how this has manifested itself. Ever since I got my driver's license, I routinely get into car accidents. Okay, so this is the house of short distance travel. So it's like when I get in the car, there's my short distance travel. The car is like my, you know, encased like part of my body, and it's transporting me somewhere. And then Mars is obviously, you know, the god of war, and he's causing trouble in my chart. And so it's like collisions, divisions, cutting, accidents, trauma, like anger, like these types of things. So it's like I have gotten rear-ended a couple times, I've gotten side slammed a couple times. Like, yes, definitely some of these things, some of these accidents were like my own faults, but not all of them. Okay, so I have just been like the victim or the perpetrator of car accidents, like probably more times than I can count. Like, and I haven't so much in the last, I don't know, I've gotten in a couple little like minor fender benders. I haven't gotten anything like super bad in a long time, partly because my driving has improved and partly because I've also like spent a lot of time just not having a car, just like avoiding the situation altogether. So that's another way that like Mars and Taurus manifest in my life. Okay. Another way Mars and Taurus manifest in my life is like there's been so many times that I've tried to work in the food industry, but then for some reason I get kicked out, and it's always like some type of Mars issue. Okay, so like I tried to work at Baskin Robbins, and they were just like, "You're not fast enough. We're not going to have you." After like 2 weeks, I was like, "Bro, I can scoop ice cream. Like I'm not stupid." But they didn't really like care. Same thing happened with Forza, a coffee shop, by the way. I got hired at another coffee shop that was also a cafe, and so we served food and everything. And they promised me full time, and then they didn't really train me. And then after like a couple weeks, there was like we were super slammed, and I was the only person up at the front, and they hadn't really spent any time training me. So I was going a little bit slow, okay? And the owner's like friend, I guess, was in line and like complained to the owner that I was slow. And so they just like basically fired me. Like they cut my hours significantly. They didn't give me full time. They were giving me like one shift a week or something. I have also, let me see, what are some other things? Oh yeah, another time I applied to work for a restaurant, and while I was working in the restaurant, I ended up, they were like promising me full time, and I was training to like be a server there because I was a hostess. And one of the servers there was sexually harassing me, and which could be like definitely a Mars thing. Mars is associated with rape and sexual assault and things like of that nature as well. Which him being like depressed in my chart makes him like particularly aggravated. So anyway, I actually reported him, and I really didn't at the time. I didn't really know the legal implications of that. I honestly was just asking my manager if I could be put on different shifts from the guy that was sexually harassing me. Like I wasn't asking for him to get fired. I just didn't want him to be like on the same shifts as me. I was like, if you can just like rearrange our schedules or something like that, because you know this guy is like touching me at work and things like that. Well, they ended up firing him, but then they ended up basically firing me because everybody there stopped being my friend, stopped talking to me. They're like, how could you do this to him? How could you report him? It wasn't like, oh, sorry, you were sexually harassed. It was like, this is your fault. And then now we're going to cut your hours. Magically, we don't have work for you all of a sudden. So that was another instance. And then what else? Okay, Taurus is also associated with the beauty industry because Taurus is ruled by Venus. So it's like I specialize in plastics and cosmetic surgeries. So this is also really specific to like Venus being the ruler of Taurus and me doing surgery. Hey, Rumpel. There he is. Um, yeah, anyway, so plastic surgery and cosmetic surgery, doing that for money a lot. I've worked at several different plastic clinics. And then another thing is that whenever, oh yeah, at a couple different jobs, I've basically had like other girls be like jealous of me. And so then I didn't get promoted, or so basically like, sexuality has never like worked in my favor in the workplace. You know, like for example, like I've gotten pulled over by a cop again in my car on the way home, and I didn't. He pulled me over because I just had one of my lights was out, right? And he proceeded to like scream at me, and so I started crying, right? Screaming, it's like Mars. And then I started crying, and then he accused me of being like a manipulative girl and wrote me a ticket for like $1,000. So that's another way that it's manifested. And okay, what's another thing? I worked at Victoria's Secret for a long time. Okay, so like Mars being in Taurus, it's kind of like Venus stuff. Like Victoria's Secret is a very feminine, it's a beauty industry, right? So Taurus is sometimes associated with the beauty industry. So I worked there, and yeah, actually, that one didn't go like so bad, but I definitely did have like I was competing for a promotion, and I actually got the promotion. But then once I got the promotion, I was like in authority over like the girls that I had been competing with, and so it was just very like stressful situation for me because like there's this issue with like other girls that I was working with being jealous of me in the beauty industry, and so it was stressful. And then yeah, anyway, so I just wanted to say all of that has to do with Mars and Taurus. Okay, another thing about Mars is it's associated with kink. Like maybe this is a little bit TMI, but like Mars can indicate like where you have particular like fetishes. Okay, and so like I like Taurus is associated with the throat. And so like I've always had a thing about like being choked, um, or yeah, also because it's my third house, right? So like Mars in the third house. So there's like some, oh yeah, and then also Taurus is associated with food. And I've definitely had like food fetishes that I won't get into, but this is also then extremely relevant for me in that way. So that's another Mars and Taurus manifestation, is just like the kinks and the fetishes that I have. Um, okay, what's another Mars and Taurus? Okay, the third house has to do with communication. So because Mars wants to go, but Taurus is like kind of like holding Mars down because Taurus is an earth sign and it's fixed. To have Taurus as my sign of like communication, but then Mars there, it's like when I go to express myself, there's this energy of like something being stuck in my throat. It's like Mars is the voice box, but Taurus is holding it down. And it's always been really hard for me to like articulate and express what it is exactly that I'm like thinking, seeing, feeling, or like even to describe. Like it's just been a challenge in every job or relationship that I've had of like being articulate about communicating well what it is exactly that I'm trying to get across. And so this one of those things where like the stuff in your chart is very subjective, and I wouldn't say that somebody else would necessarily say that I'm bad at communicating, but it's just this repeated feeling that I have of being held down and not being able to like articulate or express myself, that feels very like Mars being held down in Taurus and being depressed there. Um, there was something else. Oh yeah, especially when there's something hard to say, I will feel like the words are literally stuck in my throat. So I've had a lot of like throat chakra issues where like if I'm in a situation where somebody like is attacking me, like there's like fight, flight, or freeze. And for me, it's like freeze. Like if I feel completely like violated or attacked, I won't be able to like say anything. I will become like speechless. And this has been like an issue for me in a lot in the past, of just everything being stuck in my throat and not being able to express it at all, when I'm feeling extremely threatened. Feeling threatened would be a very like Mars sort of thing. So to have him stuck in Taurus is like very expressive of my chart in that aspect. Like there's another thing that I'm missing. Oh yes, anger. Mars also indicates how we express our anger. Okay, so like to be placed in Taurus. Taurus is the sign of the bull, and bulls or cows, like bovine in general, are extremely peaceful creatures, and they don't get mad very easily. And this is super accurate of me. To have Mars in Taurus, it really makes me like a sort of like subdued and like non-aggressive person in general. But also like there's this thing called bullfighting, and it's essentially like when you incite the bull enough, then they become like the term literally raging bull. And so this has been like completely accurate of how I've expressed my anger in the past, where it's kind of like, I'm fine, I'm peace loving, I'm totally chill, little things don't bother me, I don't really suffer from road rage, I'm not offended by what you said, I'm very relaxed, very chill. And then I could have had this thing where like very few instances in my life, but I've just like snapped and just become like raging, like so angry. I'm like overcome with it, and I'm just like, and I become very verbal at that time. So again, like the third house is like how I'm expressing it. Mars is in the third house, so I'm expressing my anger verbally, and I'm just like yelling and screaming and just like, I'm seeing red everywhere, and I'm like going just crazy in these few instances in my life. So I feel like that's also very Mars in Taurus. Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of what I wanted to say, because it's kind of like this one small part of your chart does not have like one expression. It has so many expressions. And so when we go and look at your chart and I'm talking about a theme in your life, like say money or love life, when I'm describing one delineation of that part of your chart, just know that there's so many more ways that what I'm talking about can show up, and does show up and will show up. And I just want you to like keep that in the back of your mind, that there's so many expressions of every different part of our chart. And like I'm still learning more and more, like, oh my gosh, this is very Mars and Taurus in my third house, things like that. So even I'm still like learning all of that, and that's not even like the most pertinent parts of my chart. So hope y'all enjoyed this. We should do this again sometime. Have a great night.